Hurt Capital has done exceptionally well in identifying investments, leveraging a corporate governance theory that we developed internally, and we call that Founder-Centrism. And so our hypothesis 9 years ago was that the world was moving towards more founder-centrism, or founder-run companies, and that these companies would do exceptionally well over time, particularly in environments that are highly volatile and require agile decision-making. And so when you looked at what the largest companies in the world were in 2008, they were Volkswagen and ExxonMobil. And since then, if you look at the bulk of the largest companies by market capitalization, they are largely founder-centric. And this is a trend that we believe will continue. The model that we developed is based in large part on a dissertation that I did during law school, and then a paper that I subsequently published years later in the University of British Columbia Law Review. And it was on control structures. And so this is reflective of the environment in Canada. In Canada, we have, we don't have the same level of separation of ownership and control that you see in the United States. And so our legal regime has developed within that environment, given the issues that have transpired over the last 50 years within the judiciary. And so our corporate governance structure in Canada is distinct from the United States and the rest of Europe because we have both separation of ownership and control and those theories imported from the United States in many respects, and yet we have concentration in the control structures, in the ownership structures of our companies. In our view, corporate governance is exceptionally relevant and exceptionally important in these sectors like technology. Where you have founder-run companies, the traditional rules that were in many respects developed in a different environment, they don't necessarily apply in the same way to founder-run companies. And so the work of the ECGI is exceptionally important in bringing together academics that can then reason around where the world should go and how corporate governance can perhaps adapt to this new wave of technology companies that are founder-run. There's something in academic theory, and so again, the appreciation for the ECGI is that there's a tremendous amount of academic depth that can then be applied to the investment sector. And so there's a theory, this is not an ECGI paper, I don't believe, but of idiosyncratic value. And so it's the value of when a founder looks at the world differently and then plans for the next 20 years according to that vision. And so we think that Facebook epitomizes this kind of a long-term vision and the ability to capture value that otherwise was not necessarily perceived by the market. From our perspective, the value of corporate governance, when a company is run in a manner that's consistent with good corporate governance, they have an inclination to benefit the entire shareholder collective and are long-term oriented such that they will benefit their community and their employees and a variety of other constituencies, because that is in the best interest of the corporation as an ongoing entity. And so corporate governance will continue to be exceptionally important, particularly as markets become more competitive, because companies that follow the appropriate corporate governance structure will tend to succeed over the long term. The value of the ECGI is bringing together people from all over Europe and North America in order to collaborate and come up with new ideas in a very social and collegial environment. And so the opportunity to interact with Ron Gilson and with Luca Enrique over coffee is exceptional in terms of generating new ideas, both in the academic realm or applying academia in the practitioner's realm.